and welcome to Drishti PCS. My name is Aisha. I know you people are not used to seeing me on this channel. I usually come on the Drishti IAS English channel, but some surprises are good to see. So, as the Madhya Pradesh Public Service Commission preliminary exam is nearing, it is scheduled to be held on 23rd of June. So, to speed up your preparation, we have started the Target MPPSC 2024 series, and this series will be taking place in two segments. One will be the current affairs segment and one will be the previous year questions. So, this is the first episode of the current affairs segment, that is for budget and economic scenario, and this Target MPPSC 2024 series will be reaching you in two languages, that is in both English and Hindi language. So, to speed up your preparation and before the 23rd of June, we will be helping you and moving ahead with you to make your journey till the preliminary examination smooth. So, let's begin with today's episode, that is about budget and economic scenario, and what all we will be covering today is Madhya Pradesh budget, Madhya Pradesh general economic scenario, the union budget and the Indian economy review. So, let's begin. This is about first segment, that is Madhya Pradesh budget. So, the Madhya Pradesh government, which is led by Chief Minister Mohan Yadav. So, the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh is Mohan Yadav and has presented its first interim budget this year. This year means year 2024, and this is not the complete budget, it is the interim budget. And the Deputy Chief Minister of the state and the Finance Minister Jagdish Devda has tabled the rupees 1.25 lakh crore plus interim budget in the assembly. So, the Deputy Chief Minister and the Finance Minister is same, and that is Jagdish Devda, and the amount of the budget, interim budget, is rupees 1.45 lakh crore. So, the budget, also known as the vote on account budget, did not propose any new taxes or schemes. So, in this interim budget, no new taxes or schemes have been introduced. Then, the interim budget is intended to fund various departments' existing schemes from April to July 2024, as it is the interim budget. So, it is for the period April to July 2024, and after the election takes place and the voting is done, then the complete budget will come into place. And the first full-fledged budget will be presented in July 2024. No new taxes or schemes have been proposed in the interim budget, as the full-fledged budget will be presented in July 2024. As it is the interim budget, so new taxes or schemes has not been proposed in this. Important point from the exam perspective. Then, proposed expenditures in the interim budget include, so the expenditures are as follows: rupees 11,674 crore for the school education department. Important point, because many a times the amount has been asked in the examination. Rupees 9,588 crore for farmers welfare and agriculture development. Rupees 9,360 crore for women and child development department. Rupees 5,417 crore for the public health and family welfare department. Rupees 4,287 crore for tribal welfare. Important point. Rupees 3,132 crore for the PWD department, and rupees 5,100 crore for the Panchayati Raj and Rural Development department. Then rupees 787 crore for scheduled caste welfare. Important point. Rupees 514 crore for backward classes and minority welfare. So, these are the proposed expenditures in the interim budget. Then, the government plans to start helicopter services to connect religious spots, including, so religious spots is one of the major factor in increasing the tourism industry of Madhya Pradesh. So, helicopter services what the government is planning to start. That is from Indore to Mahakaleshwar, Indore to Omkareshwar, Gwalior to Orchha and Gwalior to Datia. Mahakaleshwar and Omkareshwar are the Jyotirlingas, and Orchha is also one of the historical places, the Gwalior and Datia. Then this was about Madhya Pradesh interim budget. Now Madhya Pradesh general economic scenario. So Madhya Pradesh is located in central India and it is popularly known as the heart of India. So which state is regarded as the heart of India? It is Madhya Pradesh. It is a beneficiary of mega infrastructure projects with both north, south and east-west corridor crossing the state. North, south, east, west. So both these corridor, they pass on from the Madhya Pradesh. Then it is the only diamond producing state in India. Important point to remember that which state is the only producer of diamonds in India? Then it is the Madhya Pradesh, only diamond producing state in India. Then about 43.5% of Madhya Pradesh population is in the working age group of 15 to 59 years, and this is according to the 2011 census. As till the time 2021-22 census has not been done completely and the numbers are not out, so we will go by the 2011 census because we have the complete data of it. So Madhya Pradesh, the fifth most populated state in India, fifth most populated state in India, is home to 6% of country's total population. These kind of facts can be asked and the numbers can be asked. Then the state's total population is approximately 73 million. Madhya Pradesh has a strong base of mineral resources and has the highest number of mines in the country. So which state has the highest number of mines in the country? It is Madhya Pradesh. It is a major producer of limestone, copper, bauxite, manganese ore, phosphorite and iron ore. As we already knew that it has a rich mineral resources. And Madhya Pradesh is home to 11 agroclimatic zones and more than 45 lakh hectares of irrigated land. So how many agroclimatic zones? That is 11. Important to remember. Next, it is the leading producer of food grains, pulses, oilseeds, vegetables and fruits. The state is well connected through a network of corridors, a dense road network of more than 3 lakh kilometers, 5 commercial airports. So how many commercial airports are there in Madhya Pradesh? That is, the number is 5. Operating 100 plus flights and 6 major dry inland container depots. 6. Number of commercial airport is something you need to remember. Then now it's time for the union budget, because the questions from the union budget comes in the examination. So about the budget highlights, let us first look at the expenditure part, that how much are we expending. So that is, the government proposes to spend rupees 45 lakh 3097 crore in 2023-24, which is an increase of 7.5% over the revised estimate of 2022-23. So the expenditure has increased by 7.5%. Then in 2022-23, total expenditure is estimated to be 6.1% higher than the budget estimate. Now about the receipts, that how much money will come into the accounts of the government. So the receipts which is other than the borrowing. So borrowings are not included in these receipts. The receipts in 2023-2024 are expected to be rupees 27,16,281 crore, which will be an increase of 11.7%. Increase of 11.7%. Then in 2022-23, total receipts are estimated to be 6.5% higher than the budget estimates. So with each passing year, the increase in receipts and expenditure are taking place. Then about the GDP, that is the gross domestic product, the government has estimated a normal GDP growth rate of 10.5%. So it is a good GDP great growth rate for Madhya Pradesh. The year would be 2023-24. So, and it is nominal GDP. It is not real GDP, it is nominal GDP. It means inflation induced. So the nominal GDP growth rate is predicted to be 10.5%. So about the deficits, important point. Deficits comes in exam and the GDP growth rate also comes in exam, but deficits are one of the most important point that you need to see. Revenue deficit in 2023-2024 is targeted at 2.9% of GDP, which is lower than the revised estimate of 4.1% in 2022-23. It means the revenue deficit is coming down, and if the revenue deficit is coming down, it means the state is doing well from the economic perspective. So the fiscal deficit in 2023-2024 is targeted at 5.9% of GDP, lower than the revised estimate of 6.4% of GDP in 2022-23. So fiscal deficit 5.9%. Most important point. Most important point that you have to remember. 5.9%. Interest expenditure at rupees 10,79,971 crore is estimated to be 41% of revenue receipts. So the revenue receipts, out of the revenue receipts, interest expenditure will be around 41%. So imagine the amount that we are paying back for what we have taken the borrowing. Now about the ministry allocations. So among the top 13 ministries with the highest allocation in 2023-24, the highest percentage increase in allocation is observed in. So what is the highest percentage of amount, or to which ministry has that amount been allocated to? So first is Ministry of Railways, and that is almost around half of the budget. That is around 49% of allocation has been done to the Ministry of Railways. On second number, we have the Ministry of Jal Shakti, that is 31%, and on third, that is 25%, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. So if you will see, more than 90% is what these three ministries are being allocated to. Now transfer to states. So the amount which the central government transfers to states. So the central government will transfer rupees 18,62,874 crore to states and to union territories in 2023-2024. So that is states plus UTs. This will be an increase of 8.9% over previous estimates. Now transfer to states includes devolution of rupees 10,21,448 crore out of the divisible pool of general taxes, and out of it the grants would be around 6 lakh and special loans will be worth rupees 1.3 lakh crore for capital expenditure. And capital expenditure is always good because it creates an asset for the country and also for the states, and it provides employment for the people or to the population of the state also. So these are the amount that will get divided into. Now let's look at the subsidies, the aspect of subsidies. So how much subsidies are being given and what has been the trend. So if we will look at the overall trend, then the amount in the subsidies or the percentage of the subsidies are decreasing. So the food subsidy is seeing a decrease of around 31.3%. Fertilizer subsidy is seeing a decrease of 22.3%. Petroleum subsidy is around 75.4%, and then other subsidies is around 29.9%. So overall, with each passing year, the subsidies are decreasing. Then FRBM targets for deficits, that is percentage of GDP. So that is fiscal deficit. If we will see, then fiscal deficit is decreasing with each passing year. 2021-22 it was 6.7%, then it was 6.4, then 5.9. Revenue deficit is also going down 4.4% to 4.1 to 2.9. So this tells us that the state is performing well with regard to the economic aspect, and the economic cycle of the state is also doing well. Then primary deficit 3.3% to 3% to 2.3%. So overall the deficit is on a declining trend. Now about the main tax proposals in the finance bill. So what are the main tax proposals? So first of all is about the changes in the new income tax regime. So new income tax regime changes. So the number of tax slabs has been reduced from 6 to 5. Earlier the tax slabs were 6 and now it has been reduced to 5. The surcharge on the income when it exceeds rupees 5 crore will be reduced from 37% to 25%. So this will be a good news for the high earning individuals or the corporations. Then those with income up to rupees 5 lakh can avail a rebate and not pay any tax, and this limit has been raised to rupees 7 lakh. So earlier it was 5 lakh and now it has been raised to 7 lakh. Then changes in tax exemptions. So the tax exemption for news agencies set up solely for the collection and distribution of news will be removed. So the tax exemptions will be removed. Then presumptive taxation. The upper limit on turnover for MSMEs to be eligible for presumptive taxation has been raised from rupees 2 crore to rupees 3 crore. So the upper limit for MSMEs have been increased from 2 crore to 3 crores. And the upper limit on gross receipts for professionals eligible for presumptive taxation has been raised from rupees 50 lakh to rupees 75 lakh. For MSME, rupees 2 lakh. For MSME, rupees 2 crore, it has been increased to rupees 3 crore. And for professionals, from rupees 50 lakh to rupees 75 lakh. So presumptive taxation is when the tax has been paid in advance. Then cooperative societies. The income tax rate for new cooperative societies engaged in manufacturing activities. Manufacturing activities has been lowered from 22% to 15%. So plus 10% surcharge. So it has been lowered from 22% to 15%. Then about the capital gains. So what is it? So the capital gains from sale of residential property. If any residential property is being sold, can be deducted to the extent of purchase or construction of another residential property. So if one residential property goes, the money can be invested into another property. The deduction will be capped at rupees 10 crores. Then with regard to life insurance, income from investments in life insurance policies will be taxable if premium of rupees 5 lakh has been paid in any year. So if the premium paid is 5 lakh, the amount paid upon the death of the policy holder will continue to be exempt from the income tax. So if anyone has passed away, then the amount paid to the person, it will not be taxed. Now about the online games, and this news made headlines when this news came out. So the winnings from online games will be subject to 30% tax deduction at source. So if any person is winning any kind of amount from the online gaming industry, then the tax which will be applicable on it will be 30%. Important point to remember, can be asked. Now about the startups. Startups incorporated within a time period and meeting other conditions can deduct up to 100% of their profits. So startups, 100% of their profits. Then the period within which losses of startups may be carried forward has been extended from 7 to 10 years. Losses of the startups can be carried forward. Earlier it was 7 years, now it has been extended to 10 years. Now about the policy highlights. First of all, about the legislative proposals that has been talked about. So amendments will be made to Banking Regulation Act 1949, then Banking Companies Acquisition and Transfer of Undertaking Act 1970, then Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 to improve bank governance and enhance investors' confidence. So to improve the governance scenario and also the confidence of the investors should increase in the banking sector or the industry. Then several measures will be taken to improve business activities in the GIFT IFSC Center, that is the Gujarat International Finance Tax City International Financial Services Center. So the Gujarat GIFT City. The IFSC Authority Act 2019 will be amended to provide for arbitration and ancillary services. So the IFSC Authority Act of 2019 will also be looked into. Then comes the topic of infrastructure. So infrastructure is about the scheme providing 50-year interest-free loans. 50 years interest-free loans, it means long period of loans. So the scheme providing 50 years interest-free loans to state governments will be made available in 2023-24 with an outlay of rupees 1.3 lakh CR. 100 critical transport infrastructure projects for last and first mile connectivity like port, coal, steel will be set up. 100. This will have an investment of rupees 75,000 crore including rupees 15,000 crore from private sources. So private investment will also be included in this. Then about urban development, what will be taking place with regard to this? An urban infrastructure development fund. Urban infrastructure development fund will be established for development of urban infrastructure by public agencies in second tier and third tier cities, because the metropolitan cities are already doing well with regard to the development, and it is the second tier and the third tier cities which now needs development. So the fund will be managed by the National Housing Bank. National Housing Bank will be looking into the management of the fund and is expected to have an annual allocation of rupees 10,000 crore. So remember the amount also, because in major things we see that the amount is also being asked in the preliminary examination. States and cities will be encouraged to undertake urban planning reforms such as efficient land use and transit oriented development. Cities will be incentivized to improve their credit worthiness for municipal bonds through property tax reforms. Then with regard to agriculture, important point, an agriculture accelerator fund. Agriculture accelerator fund will be set up to encourage agri startups in rural areas. So even in the rural areas, the startups with regard to the agriculture should increase. Then a sub scheme for PM Matsya Sampada Yojana with an investment of rupees 6,000 crore to support fishermen, fish vendors and MSMEs. Remember the name of the scheme? PM Matsya Sampada Yojana, 6,000 crore. Then decentralized storage capacity will be set up for farmers to store their produce. Otherwise, without the proper storage facilities, the perishable items are very difficult to contain for longer period. PM program for restoration, awareness, nourishment and amelioration of Mother Earth, that is PM Pranam, will be launched to incentivize states' duties to promote balanced use of chemical fertilizers and alternative fertilizers. So PM Pranam is related to fertilizers, you can say. You will see questions will definitely be asked from schemes section. We will be covering the scheme section in a particular video, but knowing about the scheme will definitely fetch you marks, because this is a section from where not even one, multiple questions are being asked. So this was about PM Pranam. Now about energy and environment section. So a green credit program will be notified under the Environment Protection Act of 1986 to incentivize environmental friendly actions by companies, individuals and local bodies. So green credit program is when the companies are producing products and the environment friendly processes are involved in the production of the product. That is when the certain credits are being given to those companies, and their few of the incentives are also given to those companies. Battery energy storage system. Battery energy storage system with 4,000 megawatt capacity will be supported with viability gap funding. Viability gap funding is only for the infrastructure projects, and that is when some infrastructure project is considered to be very important, but funding wise it is not viable. So the central government and the state government, they come and fund the project, but this project has a lot of importance. Now about research and development, that is R&D. So 3 centers of excellence for R&D in artificial intelligence will be established in select educational institutions. 100 labs will be set up in engineering institutions for developing applications using 5G services. So 5G services will also be provided in the colleges and institutions. A national data governance policy. A national data governance policy will be released to enable access to anonymized data. Then a program to promote research and innovation in pharmaceuticals. So pharmaceuticals development is a major problem, and we are doing well now to move ahead in this with regard to the R&D and the scientific advancements that our country is also facing. And also after the COVID pandemic, the pharmaceutical industry has taken a boost. Then about health. Health is a topic which now remains in news because of the COVID pandemic, and it has brought back people's attention into the aspect of health, because the health infrastructure during the COVID pandemic, and specifically if we talk about then the second wave of COVID, the health infrastructure literally collapsed, and that is when the importance of having good health infrastructure came to the forefront. So the nursing colleges will be started along with all existing 157 medical colleges. Nursing colleges will be started in order to eliminate the sickle cell anemia by the year 2047. Remember the target year. Sickle cell anemia elimination target year is 2047. A mission will be launched covering 7 crore people in the age group 0 to 40 in affected tribal areas. Now about the finance. A national finance information registry will be set up for assessing all financial and ancillary information. So this will be a unified space where all the information will be provided. A small savings scheme, that is Mahila Samman Savings Certificate, will be launched for 2 years. Remember the time period, 2 years. Then the deposit limit for senior citizens saving scheme will be increased from rupees 15 lakh to rupees 30 lakh. This is also important. Senior citizens, any kind of scheme and any kind of changes taking place becomes important, from 15 lakh to 30 lakh. Then about the governance aspect. So the KYC process, that is know your customer process, will be simplified, and financial sector regulators will be encouraged to have a KYC system, and this KYC system will be a unified filling process. A voluntary settlement scheme will be launched to settle contractual disputes of government and its undertaking. Contractual disputes of government. So this is important because we see a lot of disputes come to the forefront. The financing system of certain schemes will be changed from input based to result based on a pilot basis, so that more and more policies and programs will be result oriented, and implementation aspect of the policy will be improved. Next, the Indian economy a review. As this is the election year, so the economic survey did not come out. Instead of the economic survey, the Indian economy a review was given. So the Ministry of Finance released the Indian economy a review on 29th of January 2024. Remember the date, it can be asked. It is prepared by the Department of Economic Affairs. It was of 74-page report, and it talked about the Indian economy and presented an outlook for a variety of sectors in the coming years. Then the report replaces the annual economic survey usually presented by the finance minister, as this is the election year. So the full-fledged economic survey did not come up, was not presented. Since 2024 is an election year, so you can think about this report as a mini economic survey, and the economic survey is expected to be presented after the general elections. Now about the sectoral highlights which has been given in this report. First of all, about the agriculture. So from fiscal year 2015 to 23, the sector grew at an average rate of 3.7%. So from 2015 to 2023, the agriculture sector grew around 3.7%, which was higher than 3.4% growth from 2005 to 2014. So between 2005 to 2014 growth rate was 3.4%, and from 2015 to 2023 the growth rate is 3.7%. In comparison to the prior year, the sector expanded by 4%. So the agriculture sector is expanding. A structural change has occurred in the rural female workforce as the percentage of skilled laborers in agriculture has increased. It has increased from 48% to 59.4%. So the female workforce, the rural female workforce is on a rise. While the percentage of laborers in the elementary agriculture requiring significant physical effort has decreased. Earlier it was 23.4% and now it is 16.6%. Then comes about trade and investments. So the public sector capital investments has surged in the last 10 years. So in the last decade, the public sector capital investments has increased. Then between 2005 and 14, India's cumulative FDI inflow was 305.3 billion. And India continues to remain a preferred destination among foreign investors owing to its market size, young population and economic labor. And if we talk about the FDI, then the countries from where we get a lot of FDI is, you can say, Singapore, Mauritius, Seychelles. So, and also the state wise, you can say that Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, these states receive a high FDI inflow. India's exports have been showing significant upswing, and a lot of credit goes to the Make in India campaign. Over the past decade, merchandise exports have increased by more than 50% and services exports by 120%. The non-food credit growth is strong, enabling the Indian economy to grow at a brisk rate. So in the last one decade, when if it is about exports, then Indian economy is doing really well. Then comes the topic of digital public infrastructure. So India's robust digital public infrastructure has transformed the authentication ecosystem, and a lot of credit goes to the Digital India campaign. The cost of conducting eKYC, that is electronic KYC, has been reduced from INR 1000 to INR 5. So this has shown a tremendous improvement, that the cost has come down by a huge margin. India has also enabled online, paperless and cashless digital access to various public and private services, and with each passing day, each passing month and each passing year, we see that India is improving, and thus India is improving with regard to becoming a digital economy. Then comes about women's development. So the women's required representation in panchayats has increased. Funding for public goods like drinking water and public roads that are directly related to the concerns of women. So as the women's representation in politics is increasing, women's representation in panchayats are increasing, and this is directly affecting to the needs and to the needs on the ground level, like for example with regard to drinking water and public roads. So this is also seeing a improvement. The gross enrollment ratio for women in higher education has quadrupled from 6.7% to 27.9%, and this in itself tells about that how well India is moving on the path of development. So the gross enrollment ratio. Female labor force participation rate rose from 23.3% in 2017-18 to 37% in 2022-23, and a lot of credit also goes to the increased women's labor force participation in the agricultural sector, and there is a concept of feminization of agriculture also, which is as of now going on. reflecting a growing shift towards women-led development in India. Through programs like the Skill India Mission, Startup India, Stand Up India, female participation is also growing in human capital formation, and now we see that the number of women are also increasing into the formal sector, and that is where the women representation was low, but now we see that it is also coming up. So this was about the budget and the economic scenario. This is what we all discussed. So it was, I think, will be very, very helpful for you people to in your examination, because this was about, first of all, about the Madhya Pradesh interim budget, then Madhya Pradesh general economic scenario, then about the union budget and the Indian economy review. Question can and most probably will be come from all four aspects, because all four aspects are important. So go through it, revise, and like the budget and the economic scenario, we will be covering other aspects and other subjects which are important from the prelims examination and will be coming up before you. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Till we meet next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep subscribing to the channel. Thank you.
डियर व्यूअर्स, अपने एग्जाम की तैयारी को और बेहतर करने के लिए हमारे चैनल को लाइक, शेयर और सब्सक्राइब करना न भूलें।